Hello, you're watching Bizworld. I'm Anita. Malaysia's November trade rose by 15.6% year-on-year to 238.17 billion ringgit. This is the 22nd consecutive month of double-digit expansion and the highest monthly value for November. According to the International Trade and Industry Ministry, MITI, exports rose by 15.6% to 130 billion ringgit. Imports were higher by 15.6% to 108 billion ringgit, whereas the trade surplus increased by 15.6% to 22.3 billion ringgit. The export expansion was underpinned by strong exports of electrical and electronics, E&E products, liquefied natural gas, petroleum products, as well as crude petroleum. Meanwhile, exports to major trading partners, notably ASEAN, the US, the European Union and Japan, recorded double-digit growth. For the period of January till November 2022, trade expanded by 29.9% to 2.6 trillion ringgit compared to the same period last year. Foreign investors remained net sellers for the fifth consecutive week as they disposed of 258.6 million ringgit worth of stocks on Bursa Malaysia. The top three sectors that saw net foreign inflows were telecommunications and media, construction and consumer products and services. Meanwhile, the top three sectors that saw net foreign outflows were financial services, plantation and healthcare. Local institutions continued to be net buyers for the third consecutive week on the back of a more stable political climate domestically, while local retailers continued to be net buyers last week at 35.6 million ringgit. To date, foreign investors have been net buyers with a total net inflow of 4.54 billion ringgit. The Malaysian economic growth is expected to normalise going into next year following a strong growth posted this year due to a low base effect factor. The 2023 economy, however, will be backed by a strong domestic demand, particularly in the private consumption as well as China's reopening.
So we're expecting Malaysia's economic growth to normalise. It was a very strong 2022 based on base effects, and those base effects will work in the opposite direction heading into 23, but nonetheless softening to around the 4% area, which is still a very respectable performance by any stretch of the imagination.
Manulife IM co-head of Global Macro Strategy, Sue Trin, stated that Malaysia's inflation rate still remains high for the past year, driven by food and inflation core pressures. As such, the new government is expected to focus more on the welfare of the people in 2023, given the spike in living costs, accelerated by the Russia-Ukraine war. Meanwhile, Manulife IM backed Bank Negara's move on its gradual approach in increasing the interest rate. It also expects many central banks in the region, including Bank Negara, to close its monetary tightening cycle in the first quarter next year. CGS-CIMB research predicts that 2023 could remain challenging as corporates adapt to new policies and political landscape post-15th general election. The firm said corporates need to adjust to slower global growth, with a mild recession in the US and ongoing geopolitical tensions with the Russia-Ukraine war triggering higher commodity prices. Since GE15, the government has cut down special draws for number forecast operators, as well as put on hold several flood mitigation projects worth 7 billion ringgit. Apart from that, the government had also floated the possibility of eliminating cartels in the food and essential supply sectors. It had also decided to review the 5G deployment plans through Digital Nasional Berhad and indicated plans for implementing a targeted subsidies regime. Although the review of these policies could lead to short-term concerns over earnings risks, the brokerage firm expects them to be priced in by the first half of next year and the market to rebound in the second half. There have been major changes in the past 2 to 3 years in terms of policies by the European Union, EU, the United States and China due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the war between Ukraine and Russia. In order to drive the economy, Malaysia needs to understand the changes happening in other countries to grow.
Kita perlu memahami apa yang telah berubah di dunia, di tempat lain, di negara lain, terutamanya di Eropah, di Amerika Syarikat dan juga China. Ekonomi kita memerlukan blok-blok yang besar ini.
MITI Deputy Minister Liu Chintong was speaking after his clocking-in ceremony at Menara MITI this morning. The minister hopes to help the ministry bring Malaysia's economy to a better level by developing the industries, increasing domestic and foreign investments, as well as strengthening trade with foreign countries. Looks like that's all the time we have for Bizworld today. I'm Anita Wu. Thank you for investing your time with us. Be well, Malaysia.